Hello, welcome back to the channel. I wanted to talk today about PCs and Macs. My MacBook Pro, I did a couple of videos on since I purchased it, and I found it to be an excellent device because over the years, using PC as my video editing machine, it's been okay. It's not the greatest, but it did fine. We were used to a time when if you could complete a render in the same time that the video was, it's great. If it's a couple minutes over, it's not too bad. So high-end machines are the machines that typically could get it like right around the same time, and we were happy for that. As the codec started to get bigger and getting compressed, you could shoot something in ProRes, RAW or something, and you couldn't play it back on the machine, but the editing program could actually handle it. So you really had no way of checking to see how things were unless you had to go into the editor. At least for me, I kept my software sample pretty simple. I like DaVinci Resolve, I stuck with it. I used to mess around with, what's it called, Final Cut Pro on the Apple side. But when I started using that one on the Mac as well, it was great. So I kept it. 4K is what I tend to record in and deliver to YouTube, and that's worked great for me. But my PC during the editing process was not always the smoothest. I've always had to create proxy files or render in place just to make sure that the scrubbing and going through things was working well. It was what we had. You couldn't complain about it because you weren't getting much better performance on other platforms. Now, while I had a Mac back in 2007 as a laptop, I went to the desktop version in 2009 and that machine worked pretty good. This was, pre-video stuff because it's all photography at that point. I wanted to get back into a Mac, but knowing that Intel's performance based upon what Apple was giving us, it was okay at best in my opinion. I wanted something that's going to be better. I didn't want to buy a laptop and have it overheat all the time. So that's why I never got back into Apple. So here we are in 2021 and Apple released the MacBook Pro with the Pro chip and the Max chip. Really great performance. So that has a lot of us talking about, is this thing a good replacement for PC? You're doing this as a business and you want to turn around things fast, you're heading to the Threadripper or something in the high end, the 3950 or the 5950X from AMD, because Intel seems to have been slouching over the last couple of years. Comparing that to what we have in the market today, and that's also adding in the new 12,000 series of Intel machines, Intel's actually getting better. The prices on it seems to have come down, but I don't think a lot of people are able to get their hands on those just yet. Why did I get rid of my Threadripper machine? Well, the Threadripper performed well, but as mentioned before, there were hiccups in the editing process. The MacBook Pro Max 24 core has just been flawless. For my use, which is video editing and photo editing, I've not had any issues with it. One time I tried to do some noise reduction. Of course, I bumped it up way too high and the fan kicks on, but even then the fan wasn't loud. So for me, that came around to, this machine is great on power. It can edit 4K, 8K and whatever else they showed. And it does it on battery power. And the battery life is actually pretty good. I messed around with it watching videos and so on just to see what it would do. And at around 10 hours of usage in a day, that's quite similar to like the iPad. And I'm talking like consistently messing around, editing, moving files around and so on. And yeah, it's great. So I think like myself, a lot of you out there have been thinking, this machine could replace my desktop. And in most cases, you are right. Machines are tools. You have to use the best tools for your personal use, for your job, right? While there's a lot of fanboyism about what kind of machines you want to get, whether it's AMD versus Intel, PC versus Mac, It all depends on what you need the machine for and how well it works for you. So for a lot of us, utilizing the MacBook Pro as a desktop machine and as a portable machine, it's a great thing. Not knocking anyone who wants to, stick in the same way of having your desktop and then a portable machine to take around. But imagine you have a machine that performs the way a laptop is supposed to perform. When you think about a laptop, it's supposed to be a portable device. You can use it on battery, you don't have to stay next to a plug. Apple has finally come around to giving us something that's powerful enough to do this. This is what we've been waiting for in a mobile platform. The fact that it can double as a desktop machine is great. If you want to use it for that purpose, there's nothing wrong with that. There's always been a talk about, well, Apple is expensive. Once you buy it, you kind of get stuck with it. Yes, that is true. But like anything else, once you buy it, yeah, you can kind of get stuck with it. You don't have to turn around and sell it. You can do the same thing with Apple. You can't upgrade the SSD or the memory inside them anymore, but you can certainly turn around and trade it in for a new version with the extra, parts that you want. Whether it's a bigger SSD or more memory, you can still do that. And the thing that years later down the road, you can still have value in your machine, that's great. We turned in our 2013 MacBook Air, it was $250, back in July or somewhere around that time frame. So we're talking something that's 8 years old, that still has some value. How many PCs can you say will still have value after 8 years? So my point is, while a lot of people think that you can't upgrade, you can't do anything with it, I think a lot of people fail to realize that Apple has made it simple for you to be able to upgrade your machine. If you didn't get the first one right, you can always trade it in and get a replacement, or you can recycle it, basically sell it back to Apple, get some credit for it, and use that on your next purchase. As a PC tech for the last 25 plus years actively working in the field, I've been building machines and enjoying it for years. I also support Macs, and of course my Mac Pro, I've taken it apart, added CPUs to it, added extra memory and GPU. So that was something that, as a PC guy, you want to be able to get inside of a machine and take it apart. The Mac Tower gave that to you. But what if you have something that can just work well together? And a lot of times we want to be able to customize and do our own things. But sometimes when you're on the road and you want to do things, you just want something that works and not have to futz with any software and so on. I've seen some videos from some folks out there who are getting over into the Mac side and are having frustrations with it. And I boil that down to, you're trying to make the Mac something that it's not. You have to learn the OS the way it was designed to work and utilize it from that standpoint. And once you do that, it's not difficult. You're trying to use it like Windows. It's not Windows. If you try to use Windows like a Mac, yeah. I equate that to Tesla and a standard gasoline car. While they have some of the same controls, they're not exactly the same. So you learn the interface, and once you do, you're fine with it. It's the same thing with the OS. I've told my friends, those who've had PC over the years and have some issues with it, get a Mac. It's simple. But the challenge usually for them is, well, where's my files? Why is my folders are not the same, and so on. You don't need it to be the same. For certain people, like, I'll use my mom as an example, one of my friends, and she gets a machine and she's a little bit worried about what things are. And I said, think about it like this. Everything gets stuck in a document folder. But for you, in what you're using, you open up Word, it shows you all the files that Word can access. Not everything that's in that folder. Okay, you go file open, there's my files right there. She's like, well, where's the rest of the stuff? I want to organize in folders and so on. I said, yeah, but sometimes you do that, and then you have all this extra stuff. And one of the problems I remember she had was she named folders with long names, and in the folder and folder and folder, and it's like, hey, my things won't copy anymore, what's going on? Well, you've exceeded the file name limit. Why go to that extent? And I think people don't realize that on the PC side, that yeah, you keep naming these folders and folders, you can have issues when it comes time to copy. The Mac side, I keep it simple. It's at one level, all the files are there, access it with whatever program you want to access it with. It doesn't matter how they're formatted, folders and so on and so forth, you don't have to do that. Certainly you can if you want to keep things organized, but you don't have to. So I watched a video about, this, well, actually it was more than one video. I've been seeing people talk about Mac and PC and, why Mac is like ripping you off and so on and so forth. But the one thing I can say is all the Macs that I've purchased over the years, they've lasted for a long period of time. Typically my PCs, in about a year or two, I want to upgrade the CPU or the GPU for better performance. Not saying that, the Apple stuff is going to last that long period of time, but in most cases, they do last longer than the PC because they've optimized to work with the operating system and they work very well. Each OS upgrade seems to maintain that performance. It won't be at the same level, but at least it gives you such a great performance based upon their own built-in software. And anybody who's building stuff for Macs tend to want to work with the equipment that they have to give you that experience that will last at least for 5 years or so. My point in this whole video is to say, be flexible, get what you want. Stop worrying about, what the other YouTube sites are telling you about things. If you are a video editor and a photographer and you need the Mac, get it. If you do graphic design and you do coding and it doesn't work for you, then don't get it. It's a tool. Get what you need. I think more software is going to come in the future. These machines aren't going to go away anytime soon. They're going to get improved. And I think now that most people are seeing that Apple has produced something that can work much better than what PC's been doing over the last few years, I think a lot of vendors are going to start jumping on that as well and producing software to work on the Mac. The good thing about the Mac is while it's a sandbox system, that's kind of good because they ensure that anyone producing software for their environment produces something that's going to work consistently and not have any issues. If you half-ass on your production and your development, then why would you want it? We have a lot of free stuff for Windows that clog up our machine. We have a lot of software that we buy that are not the greatest. You have to tweak, you have to do certain things. You live in the forums trying to work to make things work better. Not saying that everything is perfect on Mac, but I think for the most part, we're not worried about a lot of these things we have to tweak. Some of the older software right now, because we've gone over to Apple Silicon, are having issues, but people found ways to work around that or find different software to use. And yeah, it's probably going to cost a bit more to get different software, but you find things that work with it and you just keep on going. So I wanted to just say, my experience so far with my MacBook Pro has been great. I'll do another video on my experience, my 1 month plus experience with it. But I just wanted to address this PC versus Mac thing. I like to keep my reviews honest. I've been in the field, as I mentioned, so I know some things about both sides of these machines. So for those of you who are here and watch my video, if you like the content, please subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and share it with other folks. I thank you for stopping by and listening to me talk about this stuff. See you next time.